Hello everyone, Brad Johnson here. In this video of downloads from Sirius, Adronis is going to come through, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about certain forms of experiences that have been very common with a lot of people that I've talked to when they were children. Basically, this can represent extraterrestrial visitations, this can represent connections with elemental spirits, and basically being able to notice that they have had a lot of abilities in that time relating to childhood, clairvoyance, clairaudience, etc., and what they can do to help maintain and rebuild and kind of just reinvigorate those particular abilities through themselves. So Adronis is going to come through and talk more in regards to readapting your childhood abilities and coming back and having them fully functional and stronger than ever. So I'm going to bring Adronis in, and here we go. We are here at this time, and we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this particular broadcast being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. We will speak in regards to the idea of, shall we say, the purity of the childhood ability and being able to maintain that form of purity throughout your older years. When you first come into the body as spirit, you are fresh to source. As you move past the idea of infancy and you move more into the toddler years, the younger child years, the younger adolescent years, that you are beginning to realize just how pure the feeling of life is relating to your connection with spirit. There are young children upon your planet who are able to naturally dialogue with nature. Naturally dialogue with the trees, naturally dialogue with the plants, naturally dialogue with animals, naturally dialogue with crystals, naturally dialogue with inanimate objects. They are also able to feel that they have quote-unquote imaginary friends, and that these basically represent guides that are very, very prominent to them. They feel their presence all around them simply because they are able to sense them purely. The adults really have no idea, on some cases, about what is really happening with their child. But their child is basically, again, a fresh soul from spirit, incarnated in this form, and is able to communicate a lot more prominently with the voices that they may hear, with the images that they may see, with the understandings that they may perceive. This has nothing to do with a form of illness in any shape, way, or form. In fact, if you were to remember a great deal in regards to your youth, to when you were a young child, a young adolescent, you may also remember that you may have had certain forms of experiences like this. It has often been dismissed throughout your society that these are just simply overactive imaginations. The feeling of ADHD or any other particular form of label that you wish to put upon it. The whole idea really is that as a young child, you are fresh to the connections all around you. And every single child has a very unique way of expressing themselves through spirit. It's not even that they even realize that they're on a spiritual journey. The communications they have with other beings that may be elemental in nature, other beings that represent your nature, other beings that may be extraterrestrial, other beings that may be from your own distant future. To them, this is just natural speaking, natural conversation with these particular types of beings, that they are sharing insight with the children. The reason why many children actually have these particular type of beings that come forward in their earlier points of life is to actually help them in regards to a rebalancing of certain karmic matters, or being able to help in faculty to the idea of actually assisting the parents in regards to karmic realignment and balance. So the whole idea is if a fresh child, in that sense, comes into the world, grows older, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and is starting to again have these imaginary friends, being able to communicate in this way. They may notice that they have nightmares at times. They may even, in that sense, feel very frightened and screaming at the top of their lungs, simply because this is all part of leftover debris that has come from one life previously and is amalgamating back into them. Now, the whole idea is that your age is not particular in regards to what you are excused from. If you have karmic ties in regards to unresolved matters, you will start to feel it as soon as you are able to perceive on some type of communicative level an interpretation to that karmic debris. So that many young children may have a fear of monsters, may have a fear of beasts, may have a fear of, in that sense, very, very angry men or very angry women that they are noticing within their dream states. And they attempt to tell you about the nightmare, and that it may often, in that sense, be brushed off. From our particular perspective here, it is recommended that you listen, and that you talk to your children more into the idea just as you would talk to an adult. These children, in that way, are not imagining these. These dreams can be very, very intense, and they can be, in that sense, to their perspective, very terrifying, and that they require the assistance of their parents to be able to hear them out, to listen. But because they are little, because they are children, many parents may actually dismiss this simply as imagination. Oh, do not worry, dear. It was just a dream. It's not going to come again. And that those particular versions of nightmares are going to reoccur over and over and over again. And because there is no settlement in regards to listening between the parent and the child, there can be no agreement in regards to assistance. These particular nightmares fuse themselves solidly within the child's mind. And the child actually embeds these karmic forms of debris into their own energy field, into, shall we say, the base pairs of DNA, directly into the codon sequences of your own cellular makeup. It then becomes memory. They then start to utilize those forms of cellular memory that has been imprinted based upon these nightmares to create certain versions of representational relationship that they attract when they become older. You see, the way spirit works is that firstly, it will communicate with you in a very subtle way. And if that particular form of subtlety is not acknowledged, is not forgiven to the point to where you just simply need to look into yourself, forgive yourself, and liberate that, and then being able to transcend it, that particular form of memory will remain with you. And it will start to broaden itself. It'll build itself up. It'll grow like a roaring fire. And it will start to reciprocate energies in an intense manner that then starts to work together into childhood. And there are many, many, many children upon your planet who have been neglected to the point of not being taken seriously in regards to many of these frightening situations that they have encountered throughout their nighttime sleeps, throughout their daydreams, throughout their own naps, etc. These particular forms of scarcities that they have is very real, simply because the only thing that really is real in life is that to which you experience, is that to which you express, is to that which you encounter. And so it is very, very important on the parent's behalf that when a child is frightened in the middle of the night, comfort them, talk to them, being able to share with them, all right, dear, exactly what happened in the dream. Listen to them and work towards how you can teach them how to love those monsters. Because it's not about the idea of initiating a state of protection. Protection can be somewhat, to the degree, helpful at certain times. But the whole idea is that, shall we say, the whole idea of protection is putting a band-aid on things. And it's not about putting a band-aid on these particular forms of karmic-based matters that have been, shall we say, propagated within your younger child's reality. Now again, sometimes spirit guides will actually come in and they will actually be the ones responsible for comforting the child. There will also be times to where they will actually materialize as holograms contained within the child's bedroom and being able to soothe them. Being able to soothe them in regards to a pattern that they recognize. Being able to send telepathic energy to the child and feeling that equilibrium of calmness. And within a moment, just within a moment, by being able to interact with that spirit guide, between that spirit guide and the child is now calm. The remains and the remnants of that energy that represented the karmic debris that was creating the, shall we say, troubling situation has now been remedied in regards to an intense telepathic intervention. And this is what some children actually have. And they will actually tell you stories, but because they're so cute and they're so little and they're so imaginative, it is just dismissed as a fable, as a lore. And so the whole idea here is for parents to please take your children seriously. They can only share in regards to what they can understand pertaining to interpretation at that age. Listen to them, talk to them like an adult, and let yourselves have a best friend unity between parent and child. Now it is, of course, not uncommon for other children to actually be taken out of bed and actually going aboard spacecraft to be visited, to actually have some types of alterations done in regards to the DNA. This is another result in regards to helping to soothe the waters pertaining to, shall we say, intense karmic realignment, and basically allowing the child itself to still function in regards to the necessity of capacity, in that sense, to which they have signed up with, to allow their own well-being, to allow their own growth to continue, and for them to continue to serve as this karmic balancer even with their own family lines, with their own inner circles. So, the reason why many children have these particular types of encounters is because they are being watched over. There are many beings beyond your world existing in other particular dimensions. Even children that are very good friends with your own pets will actually have the pet come in and actually comfort them as well in regards to a specific type of telepathic intervention. Without words, just simply through the idea of feeling and through the idea of presence. So again, these childhood encounters do happen. The children themselves are completely brilliant to the point of being able to share their experience with spirit with you. But because again, it is about the vocabulary, the comprehension about how they interpret the world at that age, that it is often dismissed. Please take your children more seriously. Now, going to the idea in regards to how you can recapture those abilities that you had since childhood, all this requires is what you would know as energetic detoxification. The reason why these particular abilities have been rendered inert is simply because they have been given a devaluing in regards to parents, in regards to school, education, etc. And that these particular programs have basically told you, oh, stop thinking that way, just smarten up and grow up. And those particular programs over time in regards to that relationship have rendered these abilities inert. If you truly wish to recapture these particular abilities that you had profoundly as a child, you must revisit those aspects of boundaries that prevented you from actually allowing those abilities to continue to grow. It's simply the idea that those particular abilities are kept in stasis. They are not, in that sense, completely non-existent, and they can never not happen again. They certainly can happen again. But it's all about you being able to revisit the aspects of those barriers to allow a re-stimulation effect to take place. This is why many of you are going through amalgamation effects, simply because the amalgamation effect is representing the idea of taking down many of these barriers. It's part of repopulation. Repopulation is stimulating an amalgamation effect so that these barriers can be taken down appropriately where applicable, and allowing many of these abilities to now return because they are compliant pertaining to the life theme that you are now pursuing. So it is absolutely possible to resurrect, as it were, these particular forms of abilities once again. Look into your barriers. Look into where the programming first began. Look back to where you felt you were younger and that you were able to make some type of communication that you would consider to be of extrasensory perception nature. And being able to look back in regards to the programming that you felt was the suppression point that brought this into stasis, and allow that stasis now to be unlocked, and letting that ability come back together with you. Is it true that in that sense you can utilize diet in certain forms to assist in unlocking? Yes, it certainly is. But diet is not the only answer. It's not just about the idea of replenishing the idea on diet upon your planet to enhance these abilities. These abilities themselves are mental blockages, and that the mentality itself will allow the unblocking of these situations to flow. Now again, the whole idea is that many people who feel that diet itself is bringing forward the abilities in regards to what you had as a child, this can certainly happen, as long as the diet fits the means in regards to the passion that allows you to feel boundless. And that's the whole idea. Diet itself is a prop. And so again, if utilized in the way that is efficient, that you feel is complementary to your space, complementary to your environment in regards to preparation of the food, allowing yourself, again, ingestion of the food that brings you into more higher vibratory states, this can most definitely create certain forms of unlocking. But the principle of mentality doctrines the idea in regards to the effectiveness and efficiency of diet. So this would just be something to remainder of, to be aware of in that way, also relating to the idea of exercise, relating to the idea of meditation, etc. These can also be helpful, but like everything else, they are all permission-based. They are simply traffic lights, that if you are ready to hit the green light and say go, then many of these do have the opportunity to be quite profoundly beneficial. But it is all based upon the idea of your mentality to determine exactly what your complement is relating to the relationship of spirit between yourself and spirit itself, so that you can, in that sense, allow yourself to surf, to coast, to maneuver into the advancements of these waves, so that these particular forms of abilities can now be restabilized, reharmonized, and brought back into divine fruition. We thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. Thank you very much. Farewell for this timing, and we now return to the conduit. We will speak to you again in the infinite moment of now. Goodbye. All right. Thank you, everybody. Feel free again to check out consciousmatrix.com for more videos, sessions, products, etc. A lot of great stuff there. Any questions in regards to this video, please feel free to drop me an email, info@consciousmatrix.com. Thank you for tuning in. Talk to you next time. Namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.